Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
GO.
CGO or George. We are releasing this on the 25th of May, 2026. Quick reminder: like and subscribe us. We release every day on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and other platforms. In news today, yesterday or Sunday was the final day of Premier League games. We had several games that mattered, several games that didn't, several games that still had trashing talk points, even if they weren't consequential. We had Aston Villa beating Manchester City in largely a meaningless game, 2-1. We had Brighton losing to Manchester United 0-3, which was meaningless for Man United. Ultimately, ended up being kind of impactful for Brighton. Fulham beat Newcastle 2-0. Spurs beat Everton. Liverpool and the greatest team in England drew 1-1. That's, of course, Brentford. Burnley and Wolves drew 1-1, in which I'm sure all 10 people watching had a great time. We had Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth 1-1. West Ham beat Leeds 3-0, but still got relegated. And Sunderland beat Chelsea 2-1. They secured a spot in Europe. And Arsenal beat Palace 2-1, and which was largely a game where both teams played their backups. So, George, let's start with the European candidates. So, Bournemouth and Sunderland have gotten Europa League, and Brighton have gotten Conference League, is my understanding. This is big for all three of these clubs. Sunderland just came up. Which of these clubs do you feel like is going to be most successful in Europe next year?
Well, if you are talking about that is the club we weren't expecting to make it to Europe. That's Bournemouth, Sunderland, and that's Brighton. Well, if they can retain the same quality of players they have this season, if we are looking at it based on that reason, then I think Bournemouth is that team that I feel will perform well in Europe next season. That is if they can maintain. But the issue is that they will be having a change in manager because Michael Rose will be the one taking over from Andoni Raola. So that's one of my biggest concerns. Credit must go to Bournemouth because they ended the season with 18 games unbeaten streak, which is quite remarkable. The last time they lost a Premier League game was January 3rd of 2026, which shows you how good Andoni Raola has really made this team to be. So I'm so impressed with the team that they were able to maintain their performance, refuse to lose any game. And you see the way they play, you will know it's not an easy team to play against and just get a win. You have to sweat if you must get victory against them. So the man has done a very good job. But my concern is when you change manager, if this same momentum can be maintained. That's the only fear, because the new manager is going to come in and bring in new philosophy, new ideas, and that might change the way the team performs. So that's the only concern I have about Bournemouth.
I think Sunderland is the biggest cause for concern here. I mean, as they've done fantastic, I think most people would agree that they were better in the first half of the season than the second half. Of course, they did great to beat Chelsea today. They had their moments in the second half of the season. But of course, this is a huge adjustment for them in terms of intensity and quality of play. Of course, they played just as many games in the championship last year, but the Premier League plus Europe is a little bit more quality, a little bit more intense, a little bit more draining with all the travel compared to those championship games. I think they will be interesting just because a lot of teams come up who do well in their first season tend to drop off in their second season almost always. So I think there's always going to be a little drop off of them. And, I think they'll really struggle with it. I think Brighton is the team most placed to succeed just because they have just a system that they know how to bring in players. I mean, I know because I watched Brentford. They have plan A on plan B and plan C. If they made Europe, if they didn't make Europe, I think they're very well set up going into this summer in order to capitalize on Europe. And I believe they've been to Europe before, George. Is that right?
Yes. They've been in Europe before.
Yeah.
And one thing that will work for Brighton is they are not changing the manager. Huzla is going to still be in charge of the team. And then I don't think they are going to lose lots of players. Even if some players leaves, Brighton has a way of recruiting very good players that will come in and fit in very well. So that will really work in their favor, not changing a manager And if you look at their recruitment system, so fantastic. I think they have one of the best recruitment system in the Premier League. So that is going to work in their favor. And then apart from that, they are playing the Conference League. Conference League is not as competitive like the Europa League. So what it shows is that Sunderland and Bournemouth will have to contend with more stronger opposition, because in the next season's Europa League, we'll have the likes of AC Milan playing in the competition. Juve will also be playing that competition. So imagine Sunderland playing against such teams. That's not going to come very easy for them. But for Brighton, they'll be playing teams from Kazakhstan, from Azerbaijan. These are teams they will be able to at least stand, like we've seen Crystal Palace. I think in the last, since the Conference League started, the English teams have always gone very far in that competition. So it shows the level. They are far ahead of most of the teams they are playing against in the Conference League. So I don't think Brighton will have much problem in the Conference League. The people that will have a lot to worry about is Bournemouth, in that they are changing their coach. If it was Andone Raola that is still there, then I'll tell you I'll be more confident. And then Sunderland, I don't know if they'll be able to manage both playing the Premier League and also playing in Europa League, where they are going to face very strong opposition.
I mean, as somebody who was a fan for those, Brentford fan, obviously, like, I'd rather see a team like us get into Europe and struggle a bit next season. Like, if I had a Conference League run and 17th place next season, I would have taken it. We were, of course, one goal away. We had a free header that went just over the bar with a minute 2 left that would have qualified us for Europa League. It's a shame that our season came down to 1, but still a very successful season. But that transitions me, George. We talked a couple weeks ago about manager of the season. That was, of course, 3 weeks ago. They announced the candidates. A lot has happened in 3 weeks. Of course, this usually goes to the manager that wins. I forget the last manager that won this award without winning the league.
I think that was Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was the
it was Jurgen, but it was a while ago. Almost never goes to him. But this year it could. There's several candidates. I think Roger Labris is a great candidate. I think Andoni Iraola is a great candidate for this award, George. If you had to hand out this award and you had your choice, who would you give this award to?
Well, if I'm to make a decision, I'll give it to Andoni Iraola. But if you go by the way this award has always been given, most times it always goes to the manager whose team has won the Premier League. So if we go by that, then it will go to Mikel Arteta. And then Mikel Arteta has done something that has not been done in a very long while by the Arsenal previous managers, because the last time they won the Premier League was 22 years ago. So for a manager to have helped to achieve such a feat is something that is worth commendable. So such kind of things will work in the favor of Arteta. Apart from winning the league, in a long time Arsenal won the league. So if we go by that, I think Mikel Arteta should get it. If not, it should go to Andoni Iraola. I think it's between the both of them. But Arteta will most likely get it.
I would throw in Roger Labris because again, I feel like Iraola and Arteta and Labris have all done fantastic jobs. Iraola has built up this Bournemouth squad over 3.5 years, I believe, 3 years, something like that. And Roger Labris came right up, qualified for Europe in his first season. By December, everybody in Sunderland was confident they weren't going down. He immediately got results against good teams. Of course, he closed the season against a win against Chelsea. I think that he has done a fantastic job going up there, getting 8th place in his first season. I think, for me, he gets the award. And Sunderland did invest a lot, brought in a lot of new players last summer, which I think is very hard for a manager coming into a new league with basically a whole new squad. They needed a whole new squad based on just the reality of the gap between the Championship and Premier League, but I think he's just done a fantastic job. I saw them play Manchester United a couple weeks ago. I watched the entire game. I was really impressed by, again, they shut down Manchester United. They were the better team. Of course, I think that ended up in a draw, 0-0, but they played fantastically every time I've seen them this season.
No, Joe.
Except for when Brentford beat them in January 5-1, I think.
Regis Lebris, honestly, kudos must go to him. We know even there was a point in time where they had some series of poor results, and then there were speculations then on maybe He might lose his job, but he was able to turn things around for the team. And when it matters most, they got very good results, which has helped them to at least achieve this feat, because it's been a very long time. I think 53 years ago was the last time they got to Europe. So achieving that kind of feat is something that is quite commendable by Sunderland and then the manager. So that is you have a very good point, but I'm just looking at it from what has always been the trend. That's why
It's a,
I don't know if, but if we go by your point, I think it's what's
Let me also go
considering.
on a rant. If it's the manager that wins the Premier League, just say that. I think it's so dumb that it goes to the manager that wins the Premier League. Of course, he got a Premier League badge. Of course, every manager that wins the Premier League does a great job. I think that it should go to a manager more often that is a Roger Lebris, is a Anthony Iraola, who loses half their team and still succeeds the next season, or Hertzler, who again takes guys from random second leagues around Europe and transforms into a eighth place team in the Premier League. It's really incredible what he does with the Brighton hierarchy, as well as Keith Andrews. Guys like that, I think, deserve more recognition for this award. George, let's move on to West Ham getting relegated. They won 3-0 today against Leeds. Tottenham beat Everton 1-0. And so I think because the Tottenham game was never in doubt, I think there was never that much drama about West Ham. They looked strong in January, February. Then they started losing again, and Tottenham won a couple. What do you think happened?
Well, the issue is that West Ham, I think they lost focus when it matters most. Because if you look at, there were some games they lost towards the tail end of the season, which if they had even gotten a draw, they wouldn't have been in this mess. In short, Tottenham were in a more difficult position than West Ham. But West Ham did not take the opportunity, and they paid dearly for it. It's very sad that their 14 years of being in the Premier League has just ended in this way. It's very, very sad, because even Declan Rice, even after they were celebrating Arsenal's trophy and stuff like that, Declan Rice was hoping that West Ham would be able to escape relegation. When he got the news that West Ham, the team he really did a whole lot for, won the Conference League with, has been relegated, it was very, very sad. So it's a sad one for West Ham. I think they got it wrong at some point, and they paid dearly. Getting the win against Leeds United was, they just tried to see if maybe Everton can do them a favor by getting a win against Tottenham.
I think this West Ham team also got a bit unlucky this year. Like, they have the most points or best record I think I saw than any team in the last 24 years since like 2003. This team, again, all season, they had some stinkers. I mean, I remember just in the last month, Brentford went in and we had a very comfortable 3-0 win, and then I think it was the following week, West Ham were basically a VAR call, which was the correct referee call, away from drawing the league champions Arsenal, and potentially even maybe Arsenal would have been second at that point. But you get my point, is that they had 1 week they were great, 1 week they were poor, 1 week they were great, 1 week they were poor. I don't think Nuno is too much at fault here. I think typically Graham Potter did not do great with his team either. This team, in my opinion, some of their best players who have been there for a long time started falling off. Like, Souček is not one of the best midfielders in the league like he was 5 years ago, and it's just a squad issue. And I think they'll do fine in the championship.
Joe, for a team that in their last 5 games they lost 3, that means you are not serious. Because Tottenham, that is one of their biggest competitor when it comes to trying to escape relegation, only lost 1 game in their last 5 games. They won 3, they drew 1. But West Ham only got 2 wins. So
you said they lost 3 and got 2 wins, yeah.
Yes, the last George, 5 games. Yeah, that's what happened to West Ham.
6 points from 5. If you do that all year, you could stay in the Premier League. Like, that's better than relegation form. If they had kept up that form all year, it would have been fine. 2 wins again this is not a title race. This is a relegation race where 2 wins are massive. It's just unfortunate that I feel like there was only two bad teams this year for West Ham, as opposed to most years there's 4, 5, or 6.
So honestly, I was really very sad that West Ham have to get relegated. This because I was if we have been told at the beginning of the season that West Ham is going to be relegated at the end of the season, I'm sure a lot of people will argue that. But that's football
I
for
would have
you.
believed you. I would have believed you. I remember my friends last summer telling me what Brentford were going down, and I thought that both West Ham and Wolves were in a much worse spot, and I think that is unfortunate. I think it's good for the league, though, that we have new teams going down and coming up. Both West Ham and Wolves have been in the league, I think, 8 years and 14 years. Is that right? Something like that. And so I think it's really good for the league to have fresh faces. Coventry hasn't been in the league for a while. With Hull, it's been 10 years. So quite a lot of new faces in the league next year. I think it's great. Leeds is one of my favorite teams to have in the league, too.
So between Coventry, Ipswich Town, and uh, All City, which of these three do you think will be going back to the championship at the end of next season's Premier League?
I think Hull City goes right down. I don't think there's drama there. I think Coventry stays up. There's no drama there. And I think that Middlesbrough struggles and
No,
is in a relegation race.
no. Ipswich. It's Ipswich Town, Coventry, and
Sorry,
um,
Hull go down.
Hull City.
Hull go down. Coventry stay up. Ipswich are in a good race. Sorry, I should have said Ipswich, not Middlesbrough. What about you, George?
Well, I feel maybe Hull City might be the team that will be going back to the relegation. Yeah, and then I don't know. Ipswich Town is another team I don't really trust. So it might be both Ipswich Town and Hull City. I think Coventry is the only team I feel will be able to match the energy in the Premier League.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Frank Lampard, I think, is doing the right thing. He was a good championship manager. Went to Chelsea probably too early in his career. Did okay, probably not mediocre, not amazing, not awful. Went to Everton again, wasn't amazing, wasn't awful. Went back to Coventry in the championship, has done exceptionally well. I think this is a chance for him to reestablish, is he going to be back on the upside? I think it's really interesting to see his evolution as a manager. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Well, Frank Lampard, I was very impressed with the way he was able to handle the Coventry team because we knew how the team struggled initially and then came and transformed things for the club. And for him to have brought them to the Premier League is something that he deserves credit for. But sometimes such kind of performance from Lampard, some people might start putting pressure. They want him to move to a bigger club. I don't think this is the best time for Frank Lampard to go to any big club. He needs time to build his quality as a coach, and then I'm sure with this Coventry team, he'll have a lot he needs to learn when it comes to coaching before going to coach a big club. We can see what the likes of Cesc Fabregas is doing with Como. He is not in a hurry to leave the club, and you
Yeah,
see
same
the
with
kind
Vincent
of
Company.
progress. Yeah, and you see the progress
Vincent
he has
Company.
made, and today he has been able to help even Como to qualify for the Champions League. So, and even when he has qualified for the Champions League, he's not in a hurry to leave the club and go to maybe a bigger club. So, I love coaches who try to take their time to build themselves before moving for bigger challenges. We knew what happened to Thiago Motta, who was coach of Bologna. He was able to qualify Bologna for the Champions League, but instead of trying to spend more time with the team in order to build his career, he quickly got an offer to Juve, and then he didn't even last in the job, and he was asked to leave. So
There's a lot of
it's
managers who that happens to. I think Graham Potter is another example of a guy who I think had his confidence shattered. I mean, I think his failure at West Ham is interesting. It's very interesting to see where he goes next. But he was the guy who probably jumped to Chelsea too early. Andres Villas-Boas happens all over. But George, let me close out with their standard questions. Number one, what do you think went wrong for West Ham? Was it players? Was it management? Was it ownership? Number two, who's your EPL manager of the season? George says Areola. I say Roger Labris. I think that there's a lot of great options, though. Arteta could as well, based on how the award's gone in the past. And number 3, now the Premier League is over, which team, again, most surprised you? Which team are you most impressed with? And who's your favorite goal today? We'll talk through the World Cup. We'll continue to talk through, goal of the season as awards like that come out. But thank you for listening, and glad you're along with the ride.